It's Monday the 9th of October, it's 8:45pm and this is the Cat's Whiskers Podcast live. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Cat's Whiskers Podcast. My name is Jono Bullard. If you would like to get in touch with us during the show, you can do via Twitter. It's at Cat's Whiskers TV. Would love to hear from you if you are listening to us. Time to introduce the people for the virtual table of hockey chat that we usually have on a Monday night. I'm delighted to welcome Tina Taylor.
Hiya.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Hello.
And Andy Haywood.
Evening.
Hello everyone. Well, we got a packed show for you tonight. You'll be not surprised to hear that the CHL will be top of the agenda, and we'll be talking about the game against Turku very, very shortly. And we'll also have a short interview with Aaron Murphy that Tina did with the Premier Sports commentator after the game against Turku. We'll also be discussing Saturday's Challenge Cup loss to the Sheffield Steelers, as well as Panthers' latest signing, Danish international Patrick Galbraith, who comes in as the backup input netminder. We'll be looking at some of the special team figures of the team in Elite League, Challenge Cup and CHL, discussing the other Elite League results and news before looking ahead to all Panthers games this coming week, which includes the return trip to Turku tomorrow, Sheffield away in the league on Saturday, and Belfast at the NIC on Sunday. So busy show. And as I said at the start, at Cat's Whiskers TV on Twitter, we would love to hear from you as we go through the show. But go back to a history-making night last Tuesday in the CHL. Panthers taking on TPS Turku and winning 2-0. Both goals scored within a minute of each other. Josh Schaller and Alexander Mokshantev in the second period late on, with two superb goals to take us through to the last 16. And after the result in Mountfield on Thursday, Panthers also go through as group winners. And guys, you were all at the game. Can anyone still quite believe it?
Well, I think, no, in a lot of aspects, but I think realistically, the way we've played in the CHL, yes, it's a real odd situation that we found ourselves in, where, you know, I was, and I know Paul spoke about it in his article. Saying that he didn't feel nervous because there was no expectations. You know, we weren't supposed to be in this position. Everything was, you know, just a bit of a, almost like a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun, because, you know, we really weren't supposed to ever be in this position. But I went into the game feeling really nervous. And it's incredible that we were given that opportunity to do so. I remember speaking to someone before the game who said that, you know, he couldn't understand why people were nervous, because ultimately it's a win-win situation for us. You know, if we win, then we're through. If we lose, it doesn't really matter because we've already, you know, overachieved. But I also got a message from them later on when the third period started, said that they started to feel nervous, which I thought was quite amusing. But it's an incredible achievement, and one that I don't think anyone, you know, even the most ardent of Panthers fans would have said realistically that there was no way we were ever going to top this group. There was no way that we were, you know, more than likely there was no way we were ever going to get out of a group. You know, Neil Black spoke at the draw and said that the goal was to get out of the group, and I think, you know, most people laughed at that statement. But the performances we've put in the CHL have been absolutely fantastic, and despite Turku being the better team on the night, I thought defensively we were absolutely superb. And you know, at the end of the day, if they can't score goals in 60 minutes and with multiple power play opportunities as well, then realistically, can you say that they deserve to win, despite the fact that they had the lion's share of the possession?
Well, the Turku coach was very diplomatic in his end of game interview. He said, yes, we had most possession, but they scored 2 goals, we scored none, and on that aspect, we did deserve to win. We were the better team. Tina, do you agree with that, or did the better team win on the night, or were we lucky?
Well, I mean, I suppose it depends on your interpretation of the word better. We were the better team on the scoreboard because we scored 2 goals, but in terms of skating ability, passing, the team, the Turku team themselves, they are probably technically better than the Panthers team overall. Vastly superior. But
can the same be said of SC Burnham and Mansfield as well?
Well, yeah, and what we've done against Turku is what we did against Burnham Mountfield. The team played as the Panthers team played as a team. They worked the socks off. They blocked shots. They got involved. They were completely 100% committed and invested, and it came off. It worked. It did the job. So just despite, we've got some players who are absolute class, but as a team in general, I think we rank lower than these teams for a reason. At least we did going into the competition, but we've shown an awful lot of battle and an awful lot of commitment to the systems, and 100% has gone in to the wins that we've brought out of our CHL games.
Yeah, and it was 2 quick goals late in the second period from Josh Shaller and Alexander Mokshantev. 2 brilliant goals. Mokshantev's particular was quite special, but that seemed to stun Turku.
Well, it wasn't that as well. I thought the team's sort of effort levels, after that first goal, the same line stayed out. Farmer went straight to all the rest of his teammates on the ice and was just like, look, keep your head in it now. So yes, I think they were stunned, but I think the professionalism and the sheer will to win of the Panthers saw us through there. I thought it was just, it's still unreal. I've watched the replays of the game several times now already.
Yeah, that goal by Mokshantev, everybody's talking about it. I think it's won the goal of the round, or it certainly was well up there in the social media votes that the Champions Hockey League put out. Andy, could you quite believe it when you saw he put it in?
Well, yeah, because I must admit, as good a goal as it was, on the night I didn't quite appreciate just how good a goal it was. It was only watching it back on the telly and on the highlights that I realised just how special a goal that we'd witnessed. It was, like I say, don't get me wrong, it was a very good goal, and on the night it was still quite something. But you saw, how he faked the defenseman a lot better on the TV than I did on the night. And these are, genuinely very, very good, if not world class players. And a guy that, when we signed, people were sort of saying, well, he could be all right, but he's going to be a 4th liner and that sort of thing. The fact that he's put a number on them, and had the ability to not only pull a move on a defenseman like that, but then also pull a move on the netminder before going around the back and cutting back in front to roof it from a tight angle, just shows what kind of skill this guy's got. And I to confirm what you said, I know when I saw the voting on social media for Goal of the Month, he was in below 90%.
Yeah, it's certainly on the one on Twitter. I think it was a little bit closer on the Facebook one, but he was still well ahead of the competition.
And it just proved just quite how good a goal it was, because don't get me wrong, I'm sure there was plenty of Panthers fans that were voting on that sort of thing, but to get that kind of percentage from so many votes sort of implies that perhaps other people were also quite in awe of the skill and the finish. And it was a fantastic goal. But like I say, I only really sort of fully appreciated it having watched the replays of it, because you get to sort of analyse the skill and the detail of what he actually put into that goal an awful lot better than sort of catching it in real time, with so much else going on around as well. Because I was actually looking at the fact that we were on the delayed penalty power play, at the time that he actually stole the puck. So obviously I didn't even appreciate that bit. I just thought that he skated faster than a defenseman and then roofed it from the side, which was fantastic. But like I say, when you watch it back, and I'm sure everyone's watched it back numerous times, you really appreciate just how much effort and how much skill went into that, and it was fantastic.
Just something, if I can just quickly jump in, I think the timing of our two goals was a contributory factor. God, I've lost the ability to talk now. Oh gosh, if only we weren't live. I think it contributed to the to how much we stunned the Finns. The fact that they were so close together, and they were towards the end of the second period.
Yeah, so they really didn't have a chance to record or a chance to try and get straight back in it because of the interval that came straight up. But one of the things, they did score in the third period a goal that was ruled out thanks to a brilliant check by Evan Mosey that took the player offside. They did put the puck in the net, but the play had already been whistled down. And one thing that Paul mentioned in his article was that they seemed defeated after that. Do you think that was the case, Tina?
Well, I mean, I think Ant actually noticed it as well. I think Ant mentioned it on the mini podcast that we did on just after the game. But yeah, you could just sort of see that they scored the goal, and then everybody all of a sudden turns around to look at the linesman with his arm in the air saying, "No, you're offside, lads." And I think the mood around them was basically just sort of, oh, really? It was a real sort of, it was just a big sigh, and I don't want to say acceptance, because I don't think there was ever any point where they sort of gave up, and I don't think there was any point in the third when they weren't trying to lay siege to our net. But yeah, I think it was. I think it just summed up the night for them.
A 32 save shutout for Mike Garnett, but also a real team performance. A lot of blocking shots. I think we blocked more shots than we actually had shots on goal. I mean, and that contributed heavily towards the victory.
Well, I think it was Garnett's best performance for us since he signed, by far. And as I said earlier, it was a fantastic team performance. I mean, you look, trying to pick out a man of the match from that. Even the players couldn't do it at the end. One player is announced, another one picks it up and celebrates. So, it was from the first man to the last man. They were all just top class on Tuesday. It was absolutely brilliant, and oh, what a night! And I'm still trying to recover.
Well, we had a question last week, I don't know if you remember from last week's podcast, that asked, was this the biggest game in Panthers history? Now the game has actually took place, and we know the result, we know what's happened because of it. I'm going to ask you all, and just very quickly, was that the biggest game in Panthers history, and probably was it the biggest result? Andy, start with you.
Yes. I think I said on the show that I think it was the biggest game. It might not have the most significance, but it was the biggest game in Panthers history, and winning it certainly is.
Tina?
Well, in my short time, yes. I think Andy summed it up perfectly. It might not be the game or the result with the most significance for all Panthers fans, but in terms of what the organisation have achieved, what this team has achieved in a competition of this magnitude, if you will. I think it is.
And
it's definitely huge. I think it's perhaps I'm going to come across as proper big-headed now, but I think it's perhaps the biggest result for the Elite League that has happened. Certainly since we won the Continental Cup. The biggest result in our history. I still go back to that league. That league win in Belfast.
But when
I know there was more. Sorry, I know there was more involved, and I mean that league win wasn't a one-off game. It wasn't. It was the course of the season that took us to that. But I just think, certainly, Panthers have been in that position to win the league on numerous occasions and choked, or things had gone against them and it hadn't happened, and to finally get the monkey off the back, I think that was huge. It's just a pity it's not happened since.
We had won it before, though. I appreciate, obviously, not in my lifetime, but we had won the league before. It was just a long, long time ago.
Yeah, a long, long time. It'll probably be another 50 years before we win it again as well. So,
I think looking at it, considering the teams we've beaten and their standing within the European game, I think this has been huge. It's been massively unexpected. It's been incredible. As a fan, it's made me incredibly proud.
Oh yeah, definitely. But if you listen to the Mountfield coach, it's only because they don't want to be in the tournament. So.
Yeah, Mountfield are currently second and only need an overtime win to qualify for the next round. That Mountfield, you mean?
And the same team that's invested an awful lot of money to be in it in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was a lot of sour grapes coming from Mountfield organisation. To be honest.
I just think one thing that, don't get me wrong, it doesn't get overlooked in the sense that everyone knows, who we've played, and a lot gets talked about the fact that it's been Bern and Turku and stuff like that. But if you just take the time to look and sort of refamiliarise yourself with the fact that we had 2 top 10 ranked teams in our group, and we beat them both. And we're ahead of them both, and we will be, no matter what happens tomorrow in either game. I think that in its own right is an astonishing achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it wasn't just ourselves that enjoyed a fantastic victory over Scandinavian opposition. Cardiff also had an incredible 5-1 victory over Sweden's Växjö Lakers, meaning that the EIHL is now up to 8th in the CHL club rankings after being as low as 13th. We've sort of talked about where we are in the rankings now, and that's just incredible, just from one season. And I suppose you've got to feel a little bit sorry for Cardiff, because in isolation, 2 Champions Hockey League wins is better than anybody else in the competition, except what we've achieved this season.
Had we not won the Continental Cup, then
we would be lauding how brilliantly Cardiff have done, and they have done brilliantly. Let's not take it away. I just think we've obviously done better, and that is going to get all the attention. But I just think nothing should be taken away from Cardiff. That their debut in the competition, and they've got 2 wins, and against an SHL team, which is something that we've not managed. That is an incredible victory.
Definitely, and you've also got to think as well that they beat Davos in their other game, which was a team that had put 10 past them earlier on in the tournament. To show that kind of resilience and comeback. I appreciate that there's plenty of time between the games. It wasn't like they were carrying on a ton of momentum from it and stuff like that, but they lost 10-1. When we played Lullia in that first one, I think we lost 10-2 at home and 9-1 away or something. It was something like that. And the fact that they've been able to turn that kind of defeat around and get a win is nothing short of fantastic. And like you say, it's kind of I imagine there are a lot of Cardiff fans that are gutted in the sense that, rightly so, they've got an awful lot to be proud of and they've got an awful lot to be happy about in their CHL campaign. But, and rightly so, in my opinion, the attention has been on Panthers because of obviously the results we've had. But like you say, it really doesn't take anything away from what they have achieved, because they've been nothing short of fantastic as well. And it's great. It's great for the league. It's great for the clubs involved. But it's great for the sport in the country. Obviously the elite league has gone up in the rankings, but it's still this small island and this small hockey country that is also reaping the benefits.
Okay. Well, after the game, Tina managed to get a few words with Free Sports commentator Aaron Murphy, who of course was calling the game on Free Sports last Tuesday. Here's what he had to say.
And we just finished podcasting outside the Bunkers Hill, and who should pop in to come and see us for a pint but Aaron Murphy. Hello, Aaron.
Wow, what a night. Yeah. I had to come for a pint. I got to get up at 4 a.m. for a flight, and I still said I had to come see you guys because that was otherworldly.
I know. I mean, obviously for us fans, this is just off the scale. The magnitude of this is indescribable right at the moment. We're all still reeling from it. How are you feeling?
Well, you know what, Paul and I, Adi and I, we talk incessantly before a game like that. We talked before the Burn game because we knew they'd beat Mountfield, etc. We said, if they get the first goal and Garnett stands on his head through that, weathering the storm early on, they can win. And it's almost like Paul Adi knows what he's talking about, because he did stand on his head, 9 saves in the first period for Garnett. They get the first goal through Shala, their top scorer. So it kind of fell into place, but it was that penalty kill, 0 for 6. And we had said going into the game, their special teams have to be good. So again, I think it all just clicked into place. And I'm so impressed with Corey Nielsen. I've been impressed with Corey Nielsen for 10 years, but every year he takes it to a new level in Europe. Continental Cup, first team in the Champions League, first win in the Champions League, first road win in the Champions League. Absolutely phenomenal. So for us to call that game, be a part of your club's history, absolute honour.
So you've called all the Panthers games so far. How does this one stack up in terms of the rest of them?
Well, Bern was special. Looking on paper, I'm thinking they can beat Mountfield. Looking at the 2-time Swiss and LA champions, you're thinking, this is going to be tough, especially after their first game, but you played them tough in Switzerland. And then they get that win and you go, anything is possible. You look up and down that roster tonight, TPS Turku on paper, obviously they make more money. They've got 1,100 NHL games played up and down their roster. But they were without their 2 top centermen tonight, so you're thinking there's a chance here. There's no Filppula, no Perrin, and you're going, those guys win 66% of their face-offs, the likes of Perlini and Brown. So you start winning face-offs because their top 2 centermen aren't there, and you got a chance to win. So that tonight, for me, clicked into place beautifully, and for me, that was the most exciting game so far.
We've said on the podcast that we've just done the impromptu one outside here, that we felt like it was a real team effort. There were 1 or 2 players that, we thought deserved a special mention. Would you say that there's anybody on the Panthers team that you thought sort of really stood out?
Well, in the last minute and a half, with the goalie pulled and all that, Stephen Lee, your captain, blocked 2 shots, one from Runanen and one from Virtanen, maybe 2 big, strong shooters. Stephen Lee just charging forward, throwing his body in there. I thought Perlini was amazing on the shallow goal. He wins that face-off to a degree of excellence that he could do that in the NHL. Protects the puck, spins out, creates a seam. So Perlini and Lee were great. The obvious one is Garnett, 32 save shutout against the second-place team in the Finnish Liga right now. Over 1,100 games NHL experience on their roster, like I said, and Garnett stares him down. So I like the way Stephen Lee played tonight, though.
Aaron, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thanks. Always a pleasure. Now let's get back inside.
Absolutely, I agree.
Many thanks to Murph for joining us so soon after the game. Great to get his thoughts and comments after such an historic night for the Panthers and British hockey. You can hear him have the call of the game in Turku tomorrow. That will be on Premier Sports at 5 p.m. for if you want to watch the Panthers in Finland. Okay, from the euphoria, we're going to cover Saturday's game now. I'm sorry, but we have to. It was a Challenge Cup game against our nearest and dearest, the lovely Sheffield Steelers. Panthers coming away with a 3-2 defeat. Steelers taking a 2-0 lead in the first period. Matt Marquardt and Robert Dowd with his first. Zach Phillips pulled one back in the second before Dowd on the power play made it 3-1. A Josh Shala goal just before 53 minutes wasn't enough, and Steelers got the win. And Andy, after Tuesday's euphoria, that was a disappointing homecoming.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't the right result. There was plenty of play that wasn't great, but I still think there's plenty that we can take out of it. I think the main thing we can take out of it is the fact that it was only the Challenge Cup. I thought we played well in spells, and I thought we had an awful lot of shots. But we just can't seem to get the puck in at the moment, and in certain games. And there was something I've read, and I apologise if it's one of the comments that we've had in from someone, and I've sort of jumped the gun here. But there was something I've read along the lines of the fact that we seem to be incredibly good at playing the underdog. Looking at our CHL results. But there's something about being more equally matched where we don't seem to be able to adapt and cope with it. So it's troubling. I don't think.
I will read the comment out in full. It says, Corey, as the boys so well drilled to be the underdogs for the CHL that we don't seem to know how to be the better team in domestic games. We have to be much more direct in the Elite League and Challenge Cup.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, ultimately, when you go into a game knowing that you're not going to have as much possession, and knowing that you're not really going to be given much chance to win anyway, I think there's an awful lot of pressure off you, which obviously helps. But obviously, going into games where you are expected to win is completely different. And I think there is things to work on in that regard and that aspect. But I think at the stage of the season we're at now, it is troubling, but I don't think it's necessarily worrying because we're still creating an awful lot of chances. And I actually, as I said at the game on Saturday, that it might not be next week, it might not be next month, but at some point it's going to click and a team is going to get an absolute hammering because of the chances that we are creating, in a lot of these games. But we just need to start putting them away.
I mean, Tina, we outshot the Steelers 2-1, 48-24, and we only scored twice. Is that a worry? Because it seems to be that once again we managed to make a netminder look far better than he actually is.
I suppose just to sort of maybe flip it on its head a little bit. I think maybe the Steelers have a right to be a little bit concerned about how many shots they were letting through to Mustakovs, but we should be encouraged by the shots that we were getting through. The ones that weren't getting blocked and he was having to make a save on. So it's not a concern that we are creating shots, but it is a concern because I have no technical hockey knowledge, and I wasn't in my usual seat on Saturday. I was sat behind the nets in block 10, so I saw a lot of those shots coming into Mustakovs, and the ones that the ones that didn't get rebounded, he did manage to keep hold of a few of them. They seemed to be just going straight at him, really. On another night, maybe some of those go in. Maybe he doesn't position himself quite right, and they, I don't know, slip over his pad or slip under his arm. We shouldn't be worried about the chances that are being created, but we really need to work on putting them away. But we're sort of 50% of the way there because the pucks are getting through; they're just not getting past.
Power play left wanting again, and no power play goals, and that's looking to become an issue. I know we're going to discuss this in a bit greater depth a little later on, but that's worrying that once again from power play chances that we got, we didn't look like scoring,
including over a minute of 5-on-3 as well, where we didn't look like scoring. Now I've not played the game like yourself, Jono, and Andy. I've not coached it like yourself, Jono.
That's hard to call that coaching.
So obviously what we see as supporters is completely different to what the players see, to what the coaches see. I just don't. It's the frustrating thing. It's the biggest frustrating thing, and it has been for a while, that our power play is they just seem to be static at times. Yet in the CHL, weren't we like quite high up as regards power play goals?
Yeah,
as well?
I mean the stats, we are second in the group for power play at 20% conversion rate. In the Elite League, we are 10th of the 12 teams.
Yes.
With a 14.3% conversion rate. In the CHL, in the Challenge Cup, we're 12th out of the 12 teams with no power play goals scored in 8 opportunities.
Yeah, we're the only team who haven't scored in the group stages. Sort of scored a power play goal in the group stages of the Challenge Cup.
So I mean, is the power play and other like these things, like Andy mentioned, is like, the build-up play is there, the chances are being created, we're just not putting them away. Is it a case of when it clicks, watch out, but how long can you wait before they need to change some things? And I've said it before, I just think we need to be a little bit more, like the comment said, we need to be more direct. We need to think about, we know from Saturday, you know what you're going to get with Moose. If he saves the first one, which 9 times out of 10, well, 8 times out of 10, let's not give him too much credit, he does. Why aren't you crashing the net? Why aren't you going for the rebound?
Because he gives off plenty of them.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't understand why we don't do that. But hey, I'm not a coach.
Well, I mean, the thing
I'm
in
just
terms,
a fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms, because I mean, I think I said this about Sheffield's team last year. Mustakovs does give up rebounds, but the team are aware of that, and so they compensate for it. So, most of the rebounds that were coming off him on Saturday, there was, a stealer around, whether it be a forward or defender. There was somebody there in an orange jersey to shepherd it off somewhere else, out of a danger area.
A couple of tilts during the game, an unexpected one between Brown and Ramsey, and then the main event a little later on. Zach Fitzgerald finally came out of his little hidey hole and decided to have a fight at the NIC, taking on Matthew Gagnon. Guys, I've seen the video of the fight. It looked a really, really good tilt. I mean, Andy, what was your take on the fight between Gagnon and Fitzgerald?
Well, obviously we were 2-0 down, and Gagnon came out and offered him at the face-off, and Fitzgerald turned it down, which is, that's his want. It's his right to. One thing I did notice is he seems to have a extra padding on his right hand glove. So I don't know if he's carrying an injury on that or not. So I didn't think he was going to fight, but then obviously, I suppose when you turn down a fight and then the team scores, I suppose you then kind of have to not necessarily look for it, but obviously you need to sort of try and win back some of that momentum that has kind of just been lost. So he gave Gagnon a push as Gagnon celebrated in front of him. They had a bit of a coming together, and then the linesman let him go properly, and it was a good fight.
Both players landing some bombs, but there's a lot been said about Zach Fitzgerald that he didn't want to engage with Brian McGrattan last season. Now McGrattan's left, and there's a fight in the first game at the NIC. I mean, Ant, did that surprise you at all?
No, and yes. No, well, I mean, okay, we're taking the mickey a bit because obviously he turned down McGrattan repeatedly, but then who in their right mind would want to fight Brian McGrattan in the first place? This guy is a legend in the NHL. He is one of the top enforcers of all time.
And to be fair to Fitzgerald, prior to last season, he was asked in an interview, "Who is the toughest player you have ever fought?" And his answer straight away was Brian McGrattan.
And so he clearly knows what he's getting himself into, and but Gagnon is the smaller man, maybe that played a part into it. But also, you don't know what Tomo had to say. Now, I very much doubt that Tomo would ever say to a player, "Don't get in fights," knowing how his tactics he likes to use and what have you. But no, it was a good scrap. It was very enjoyable. So it was good for Brownie to start it off as well. And I know I've got my black and gold glasses on, no doubt, and I'm probably going to get abuse from the orange lot. But I thought we edged all three encounters.
Fair enough.
If you class the first one punch knockout or one punch knockdown between Gagnon and Fitzgerald as a fight,
the one that the cameras unfortunately missed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things got made about Fitzgerald last season regarding not fighting McGrattan, and as much as the next person, I wanted to see him go, just because I wanted to see McGrattan fighting. But he spot picked last season, and I think one of the things that people need to realise is that the whole talk of the fact that McGrattan then turned down Fitzgerald in that game, and yes, he scored, and yes, at the time it was incredible, and we thought we were going to go through, and then what happened on the Sunday, happened on the Sunday. But McGrattan was perfectly within his rights to turn him down that night, even if he hadn't scored, because of what had gone on prior, throughout the rest of that season. Fitzgerald doesn't have to fight him. There's no rule saying that just because there's two tough guys it means they've got to have a fight if one of them asks. It's utilised as a tactic in a lot of aspects. And you look at the fact that we were 2-0 down and Gagnon skated over for that face-off and asked him. There's a reason why he did that at that point. It's because we were 2-0 down with not a lot. We had a lot of possession, but we weren't doing anything with it. So it was a way of building the momentum and trying to get back into the game a little bit because we were goals down. And that's no different to anybody else in any other team. And I just think that Fitzgerald gets a lot of stick and. And rightly so, because he wears the wrong colours, to what we wear. But I do think that has he redeemed himself in a sense that should he have been fighting McGrattan last year? Probably at some point during the regular season, yes, you could probably say he should have done. But I think in a playoff game, realistically, he came out to do his job. McGrattan turned it down and was quite within his rights to. Because why should McGrattan give him that fight when throughout the year he's not been given his fight on his terms? So it'll be interesting to see how often these two go, because obviously the year before last with Jansen Jansen and Fitzgerald went about 3 or 4 times, was it, I think? Yes. And I reckon that we'll probably see similar numbers with Gagnon. And I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with someone being scared, because I don't think realistically the players are scared. I think that's something that as fans we like to sort of accentuate and take the rise out of in the sense that the whole chicken nonsense and stuff. I don't for 1 minute think that Fitzgerald's scared of Brian McGrattan in terms of a fight, because he's a tough guy. He's fought him before, and he's probably. Yes, he said that he was probably the toughest he's fought, but I imagine he's fought people that are equally as intimidating, equally as big, and equally as strong. So he knows his role, and it's his want to do it how he sees fit or how the coach sees fit.
Okay. Just final bit about the Sheffield game. Corey Nielsen in the Evening Post criticised the performance of Michael Garnett, saying it was pretty meh. But also said that the team played their best domestic performance of the season. Tina, you pick that one apart.
Yeah. Now, well, you do look at the shot count, and you do. If you look at the shot count in isolation, you do sort of look at that and go, oh well, what one netminder played out of his skin, and one was distinctly average. obviously, in practice we know it doesn't necessarily work like that. But yeah, I see a lot of, I think a fair few of the shots coming into Garnett. He dealt with a lot of them well enough. They didn't go in. I think that particular part is more of it's probably more for somebody who knows what they're talking about to maybe pick apart the performance of our netminder. Interesting. I watched the Instagram thing that Callum did with Garnett, and one of the things he did say was that he was expecting there to be 3 netminders, and he wasn't expecting to be doing as much as he is. So, maybe the addition of Galbraith is actually what we needed, despite, definitely myself saying, no, I don't think we do need another netminder. So, maybe the workload being shared out a little more will help Garnett's performances. I don't know. But I think it's very difficult to see, very difficult to judge for us fans if that was the best domestic performance, because I think it is so disappointing to lose a game like that where we did have a lot of shots in our favour that weren't going in after we'd had such a brilliant game on Tuesday. I think, go on.
They're saying, is it accentuated a little bit because of the fact it was Sheffield who we lost to? Whereas,
I think it.
If it was, and I'm just picking a team out of this. Say we'd lost to Milton Keynes or Guildford, for example, would there be as much of an outcry? Because it was Sheffield.
Probably not. No, probably not. I mean, you've got to factor in the fact that it's Sheffield. You've got to factor in the fact that last time we played them up at their place, we lost with 1 second on the clock. We've just had this amazing performance against a team that we never expected that we were going to beat. And I don't think we ever expected that game to be as important as it was. Because winning that game meant that we were guaranteed a place in the next round, albeit that there was still some position jostling to go until the games the following night, but our position winning that game was, our fate was guaranteed. So had there been nothing riding on the Turku game, I suppose we wouldn't have expected so much from the Sheffield, and had we not played as well as we did, maybe not played it, but had we not seen such a great team performance against a team that is vastly superior to us on paper on Tuesday, I think the juxtaposition of the two games, I think has just made it feel worse. Corey Nielsen's the coach. He knows what he's talking about. If he says that was our best domestic performance, I'm inclined to believe him, to be perfectly honest. But I think it just feels like so much more of a disappointment because of everything that's happened this week and because of who we were playing.
Okay. Well, you mentioned about Patrick Galbraith there, so we will move on to him now. And last week it was announced that Panthers had signed Danish international Patrick Galbraith as their backup import netminder. So, thoughts on that? Because there was a lot of debate about whether we actually needed another netminder, but to replace Zakharchenko, who of course is embroiled in a alleged max fixing row. So, do we need him? It sounds from the comments that Michael Garnett said in the Instagram that we probably do, to give him a rest. And then there's also Sam Gospel to factor into all this as well. So, Ant, start with you. Is it a signing that we need?
Yes, I think it is. Obviously, Garnett is coming to has as good as a goalie he is, and he's shown that he's going to be, top class for us. He's getting to the twilight of his career now. Factor in that he's got a uni deal as well, so he'll have uni work to do. So that's, where's he going to get his downtime? He's either going to be training or studying and then playing. So having that second import goalie is a huge plus for us. With regards Gospel, I don't think his role changes at all, because he'll be the backup for every, unless we go through a deluge of injuries again like we have done pre-season.
And also, to be fair, he was signed as part of a 3-man rotation anyway. Because Zakachenko was originally coming, so it's probably no different for him.
Yeah, I mean, he probably looked at the Zakachenko thing and realised, thought, well, I might have a few more games to play now, but I still think we'll see him start in a few games as well. I don't think he's going to be left out in the cold, like certainly Greener was towards the end of last season, when he had to come in at Sheffield and play after not playing for like a good couple of months. So no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a really, really good signing, really promising signing for us. It's just nice to have that strength in depth.
Andy?
Yeah, he looks very good, and I agree that obviously it's great to have that kind of luxury, and be able to have that kind of luxury. I still think that I think Gospel probably starts the away Challenge Cup games, as we saw in Sheffield. I think that probably doesn't necessarily change with Galbraith's arrival. I think obviously Gospel will get given game time. I can't imagine that he would have been willing to come to an elite league team as part of a 3-way goalie sort of. Is tandem the right word, or is that 2? I presume tandem's 2. So
triage, shall we say?
Yeah,
triaging is what you do when you go into A&E.
It's a triumvirate or something.
There's 3 of them.
Yeah. It's a triple threat.
So obviously, I'm pretty certain that he wouldn't have wanted to come into a trio of netminders, knowing that he was constantly going to be third choice, no matter what. Obviously on paper, the quality of Galbraith and Garnett, you would say that he probably is third choice as such. But I think there will be situations, there will be games where we will be able to give him that ice time and give him that chance. I think obviously with the demise of the EPL, I don't think that would have helped. But obviously, I do think realistically that he would have been quite a valuable commodity in the EIHL because of his talent. So I think that there would have been not necessarily promises made, but I certainly think that there would be game time for Sam Gospel at various points throughout the season, and I don't think that necessarily changes with the addition of Galbraith.
Tina?
Sorry, just remind me what the question was. I'm ever so sorry. I just lost my thread then.
Three important netminders.
Yes.
Three
netminders. Three netminders. Yeah. Now, I've been quite vocal in my support of Sam Gospel, and I really, really did not want us to sign another import netminder. I'm not going to say I was happy that Zakachenko wasn't coming, because he was signed, he had a good calibre, and he's got himself allegedly got himself into a right mess. So I'm not happy about any of that, but I was quite happy to just go forward with Garnett and Gospel, and I think the only thing that has swayed me is Garnett's comments on the Instagram story. Him saying he didn't expect that he would have seen as much ice time as he has. So I think that's maybe something for the coaching staff to maybe just take into consideration as well that they can rest him, and he won't have a problem with it, because I know that well, I say I know. I get the impression that goalies come to this league and they just want to play. They just want to get all the games that they can, and if they get dropped, then it's a disappointment. But by the sounds of it, Mike Garnett wouldn't see it that way. So that's probably the only thing that has maybe swayed my decision. But had we not signed Galbraith, I'd have been perfectly happy to go forward with the two we already had.
Mm-hmm. The way I see it is, you as a team, you have to give yourselves every best chance to win, and I think that's what we've done by bringing Galbraith in. And we was going to have three netminders anyway, so it's not anything different for anybody within the club. And I'm very happy to see a triumvirate. Thanks for WhatsApping that to me, AMJ, of netminders. And it gives us the best chance to win. We may get injuries within the net-minded department. That's already covered. And I think we've invested in the team. I think the club has invested in the team, and it keeps the netminders fresh, and it also keeps them on their toes, because you've now got two top-quality netminders who are vying for that starting spot. So they're going to have to keep producing to the best of their ability, otherwise they know they're going to get dropped, because there's somebody waiting in the wings to back up. It creates competition for places, and that for me can only be a good thing.
I also think as well that it's and I think initially with Zakharchenko it was probably done with this in mind. It's also an eye on the CHL. Now obviously with Zakharchenko it would have been with an eye on the CHL with the group stages. I think now it also gives us a really good sort of balance in the CHL knockout stages, where we have two class netminders, and obviously if whichever one starts, has an off day and concedes a few goals early on, we don't have to worry about the potential of, well, do we put in Sam Gospel, who's got raw talent, but could get, with the quality that we're going to be facing, could get quite disheartened at performances and stuff like that, because ultimately the expectation is that we're going to get stuffed, or bringing on another top quality international netminder, from the bench. So I think it's a shrewd move. I think obviously that it's been in the works. I don't think this has come because we've got through to the next round of the Champions Hockey League.
No, I think there was always.
But I certainly think that I certainly think it's very, very helpful in that regards, because obviously it gives us that. Like you say, it gives us that a better chance to win. And I appreciate that we have no. Realistically, we've got no right to win, particularly in the next round. But stranger things have happened, and if we've got that chance, and we've got a better chance to win, then why not?
Okay.
I will say, I think the situation we find ourselves in now is, I can't really. I don't know what you guys think. Who's the number one out of the two? You'd assume Garnett because of his KHL experience, but Galbraith would walk into any other Elite League team's lineup and be their number one. And we've got two goldies there who are going to be vying for it. And I've just been, while you've been talking, I've been flicking through our rosters on Elite Prospects. And it actually goes back to 2013-14 when we had two import netties. We had Conway and Kowalski. So, but even then, you would have taken K-Wall as number one. You move on to the next year, we had Modig. K-Wall again, number one. The year after, Shane Madalora. We had Weekman as number one. And then last year when we had Henry, Weekman was number one. There was a clear ranking. Whereas I think the two that we've got now are of that high quality that you can see them. Are they going to just split it 50-50?
Well, I think the first few years that you've just mentioned there, and the one thing I would say is that was injury cover. There was no plan to ever have 3 netminders for the.
But then we kept them on until the end of the season, didn't we?
Well, you say that, but especially with Modig, we sent him home, and then Kowalski got injured next game, so we asked him to come back, and I think he would have only come back with the promise of a contract for the remainder of the year. I don't think he would have been happy doing this. Yeah, I'll come back and then I'll go home again scenario. So I suspect not wanting to sort of put any stain on his character, but I think it would have had us bent over a bit of a barrel there. With us saying, actually, we know you've just arrived home, but any chance you can come back again? And I think he would have said, well, not unless you sign me up for the rest of the year. I'm not going to do this for the rest of my season.
Okay. All right, we will quickly move on to the Player of the Week. Thank you very much for voting and sending in your comments on the voting forms. We'll get to the comments very, very shortly. But it's time to reveal our Player of the Week for this week. And in third place, with a shutout against Turku, it was Michael Garnett. In second place, for a cracking scrap with Zach Fitzgerald, it is Matthew Gagnon. And in first place, taking his third Player of the Week since we started doing this, it's many congratulations once again to Alexander Mokshantev. A fantastic goal against Turku, and of course he takes the Player of the Week for this week. Some of the comments that you are sending to us through on your voting forms. The difference between our CHL and domestic performances is extremely confusing and frustrating. PP is just dire, and the shot to conversion ratio is easily the worst in the league. We won't win a thing with those stats. Not quite the worst in the league, but we're around, I think, 9th, 10th if you combine Challenge Cup and Elite League. So it's still not great. Sheffield were lucky. If we could have scored on our chances, we'd have destroyed them on the scoreboard. Tuesday night was one of the best sporting occasions I have ever attended. What an atmosphere, what a game. What the hell happened Saturday? Pretty much every game at home, the opposition netminder is man of the match. How do we make them all look so good? And I just want to finish on this one, which is probably one of the strangest comments that we've ever had on any form of media before, which is, I want you to sell the big Panthers emblems for cars. We'll put one on my Land Rover spare wheel cover. I have no idea what that's all about. I don't know what you think we do here, but we're not doing merchandise for the Nottingham Panthers. But if anyone from the Panthers is listening, one of our listeners, they would like some big Panthers emblems for their back of their Land Rover. So we may see them very soon in the club shop.
I would very much suggest googling Ice Locker Nottingham. they may very well be able to answer the question one way or the other.
Fair enough. The rest of the Elite League results and news from the weekend, and the Brayhead clan, they aren't going to be feeling too good at the moment. A huge 7-1 home defeat to the Five Flyers in the league on Saturday was followed up by a 3-2 Challenge Cup defeat at Sheffield Arena on Sunday night. And the coach also broke down on the way there. That's not trip, that was the actual thing with wheels that took them to Sheffield. So, Andy, the Brayhead clan, they are in a mire and they don't look like getting out of it too easily.
No, they're in a real strange situation. We've talked before about the fact that they've not got a full squad of imports yet. And as far as I'm aware, there's no sort of rumours or news of that changing anytime sort of soon. And they keep dropping points comfortably. It's losing 7-1 at home to one of your Scottish rivals is not good. It's not a good place to be for the clan, and I think it's still early days. Don't get me wrong, but I think that there's a fair chance that you could start looking at the fact that this is quite seriously going to dent their league performance. Because they're losing so comfortably. As I said, it's not even like, you know, if they were having results like we had on Saturday, where you could argue that, you know, we were the better team, but we just can't score, which is like I say, it's troubling. But they're just being completely outplayed almost every night, and it's, you know, that must be more worrying than troubling now. I think, you know, I think they've got some serious thinking to do as to how they're going to sort of combat this run of results, because, you know, but for a club of their size, it's not really good enough.
The Guildford Flames have signed a new netminder in Chris Carosi, following the confirmation of a long-term injury to Brian Stewart, who is likely to be out till around Christmas. Carosi himself was a round 6 draft pick by the Atlanta Thrashers in 2008 and has had European experience playing in Italy and Denmark. He started off with a excellent 5-3 victory in Fife last night, but the Flames also gaining a overtime victory against the Coventry Blaze in the Challenge Cup on Saturday night as well. So a 4-point weekend for Guildford, Tina. I mean, they're surprising a few.
Yes, I think both the Elite League new boys are, you know, generally speaking, making a good showing of themselves. You know, coming into the start of the season, I don't think many of us knew too much about Guildford. You know, anything we knew about Milton Keynes was, you know, sort of mainly because we all know the coach. You know, he's GB head coach as well. Both of them have managed to make good pickups from other Elite League teams. They've brought in good players, you know, that are doing a job for them, really. And also, you know, Guildford have made a statement. You know, well, they've made a statement similar to Milton Keynes. You know, when Drobny picks up an injury, straight away they're pouncing for Mika Weekman. Brian Stewart is confirmed as being out for a long time, and they you know, straight away get out there and bring in a decent calibre netminder. So, you know, they're not get your cliche ding out again, but they're not just here to make up the numbers.
And then finally, Manchester took on the other new boys, Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes coming away with a 3-2 victory on Saturday night, but got a bit of a shellacking in the reverse victory in Altrincham last night with a 6-0 victory for the Storm that sees them open up a 3-point lead at the top of the Elite League. I mean, Manchester continuing to surprise, and they're good value for that top spot.
Well, we said it. I think we said it in the preview. Their home form was going to be key for them, and it has been so far. They've got a couple of big wins. They look a very good unit. But, you know, Brayhead were in this situation a couple of times, so let's leave it for the old Finn and Magic to work towards the end of the season again.
Okay.
Bless him.
We're going to look ahead to the games this week for the Nottingham Panthers, and tomorrow night it's the return trip to TPS Turku in the CHL, the final CHL group game. Panthers, of course, have already qualified, but Turku need a regulation win, and also depending on the result of the Burn-Mountfield game as well. So even if they do get a regulation win, they still may not qualify. I mean, Andy, what sort of slant does that put on the game? Because, you know, will they go for it or will they hold back? I mean, how do you see this one going?
Well, I think it will go in a very similar way as Tuesday. I think they will be the better team. I think they will come out all guns blazing. You know, they can still qualify, so, you know, they will want to. Yes, it will be out of their hands by the end of the game, but they will still want to give themselves the best opportunity to advance. So I fully expect that they will be playing in a very similar way to they did on Tuesday night. And from a Turku fan perspective, they would hope that it will be with you know, a better result. I fully expect them to really, you know, put us to task and make us play harder than than we probably had to on Tuesday night, with it being away from home in a different country. I think that, you know, we're in for probably the toughest game that we probably will have faced in the CHL now, because it's a team that are desperate. And obviously the Burn and Mountfield game, I think, faces off after ours has finished. So obviously, you know, they will be wanting to, you know, put up big enough numbers from a Turku point of view, that they can sit back and watch the results come through. I don't think we're going to win tomorrow night. I think that Turku will have too much for us in their current situation of wanting to qualify.
There was a Nottingham Post article that indicated that Patrick Galbraith may get his debut for the Panthers tomorrow night, but the youngsters Jordan Kelsall, Josh Tetlow and Joe Hazeldine are very unlikely to see any ice time or be involved. I mean, Tina, does that surprise you somewhat?
Yes and no. I mean, we did sort of discuss the possible schools of thought on on us going over there. I'm not surprised by it. I think it does indicate everything that sort of that has been mentioned. I think it does indicate that we're gonna try and finish strong, basically. So yeah, happy with that. Let's just go over there, continue to make a good showing of ourselves, and let the results take care of themselves, basically.
On Saturday, Panthers face what could be a very, very big Elite League game. They take on the Sheffield Steelers at the Sheffield Arena, of course, a place where we got a 6-5 defeat the last time we played there in the Challenge Cup, with a last-second goal by Levi Nelson. The last 20 games, thanks for putting this together, Tina, against the Steelers, Panthers have won 7, lost 12 and 1 overtime loss, scoring 59, conceding 73.
And season, wasn't it?
Sorry?
It's last 20 games, is that just last season?
It actually only, believe it or not, the last 20 games, it only goes back to the 23rd of February 2016. So it is pretty much most of last season, but it's not a happy stamping ground for us. But 2 points is really getting imperative now.
Yes, it is. But we've only played 6 games in the league, I think, so far. So no, you don't want to lose to your nearest and dearest for the opening 3 games of the season, but is it a must-win? It's a nice to win for me. I think if we get a point, it would be a good result. I hate going there. I really hate going there. It's one of those places where you just see very, very little success, unfortunately.
And on Sunday, Panthers are taking on the Belfast Giants. Another big game. A 4 PM face-off at the NIC. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Panthers got a 5-4 victory over the Giants in the Elite League. Giants had a win in Cardiff on Saturday night, but then lost heavily in Coventry 6-1 on Sunday. Tina, do there appear to be some depth issues with the Giants? And also with Stephen Murphy injured, a lot of pressure is being put on Jackson Whistle as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they I think Belfast was sort of, trying to, run with that 3 netminder system, and with Murphy getting this injury, I absolutely, it's kind of all on Whistle now. They've got Dixon there to back him up, who long time servant to the club. They all love him, and he'll go and do the best he can for them if needs be. If something happens to Whistle, if something does happen to Whistle, then I think they are in a bit of a spot. So they really need to be looking after him. Depth issues, I don't know. I mean, one thing that might be a problem is just the vast amount of away games they've got in the first half of the season. You know, I mean, the arena's not available for them for whatever reason. You know, they've got the Friendship 4 coming up as well, and you know, it's just they've had to work around what's in the SSE. I mean, you know, God forbid we should have another One Direction gate. So, you know, we've got all these. They've got all these away fixtures to contend with. So, you know, for teams in the Elite League, this half of the season is probably when to strike in terms of getting points from the Belfast Giants, and that includes us. We really do need to, you know, we really need to be picking the points up while they aren't in a great run of form. You know, we need to take advantage of that. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. Okay. Because that is the games that are taking place this weekend, and that is where we will leave it for tonight. Just to say that Ask TCW will be back on Wednesday night, so send in your questions in the usual formats via Twitter at Catswhiskers TV. Use the hashtag AskTCW. Our page on Facebook, the TCW page, or any of the Panthers groups that are on there. Our dedicated thread on the Cage forum, or by email tcwonlinetv@gmail.com. Get your questions in to us for discussion on Wednesday.
And let's not forget that we have a guest.
Yes, we
on
do.
Wednesday.
Yes. Go on.
No, you're all right.
No, you
I
go.
just wanted to remind you.
Yeah. No, you sorted it, so you.
Well, I'm, not that I want to take any credit for it or anything. No, we're really looking forward to welcoming Chris Ellis onto Ask TCW on Wednesday. This is it's been a while in the making, because pinning down these freelance media types is a bit of a nightmare. It has to be said. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Jono Bullard. Chris is a long-time fan of the Panthers. Has previously regularly covered the Panthers for the BBC. Now back working freelance for the BBC, and is dipping his toes in when he can, covering the Panthers, and is also currently working media for Team GB Ice Hockey. Anything that you want to ask that we can specifically direct to Chris, please feel free. But also, send in your usual Ask TCW questions, because we're pretty sure that Chris will have an opinion that he can give us, and it'll be nice to hear a new voice as well. Get opinions from somebody that's not one of us. So looking forward to that.
Okay, thanks, Tina. So that is it for tonight. Thank you very, very much for listening, and all that's left to say is thank you very much to Andy Haywood.
Anytime, no worries.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
That's not a problem. Take care.
And Tina Taylor.
TTFN, y'all.
And thank you very much once again, and we'll hope you're tuning in on Wednesday for Ask TCW. Good luck to the Panthers in Finland tomorrow. Don't forget, live 5 o'clock Premier Sports if you want to watch that. But until then, thank you very much and goodbye.